To think I would ever come back to this place again is simply maddening. Aye, come back here, you say. You know what the mist on the horizon means, don't you? You've paid good coin, but I beg you to reconsider this. I cannot. My story remains incomplete. He has awoken again. I must pen it into the book. He? Who are you talking about? There's still a long way until we reach shore. Let me tell you a story. A story about an ancient warlord named San Uzol. Fierce and feared as he rampaged across the northern wildlands, driven by a dark faith. He crushed every tribe and settlement in his path, an empire forged from blood and death on the battlefield. As his mortal life came to a close, he gave his final breath with a grin across his face. You see, he died in great satisfaction, knowing that surely he had earned a seat at the gods' table, in the glorious Hall of Bones for all of eternity. What awaited San Uzol, however, was a great grey wasteland, shrouded in ethereal fog and plagued by discordant whispers. Occasionally, other spirits would drift nearby, little more than ghostly shapes, wandering the void of their own personal oblivion. Anger consumed San Uzol. Had his faith not been enough? Had he not earned his immortality through the domination of the world? This emptiness could not be all that awaited him. He watched as lesser spirits slowly faded into the fog, unmade and lost to time. But San Uzol refused to fade.
In the world beyond, blackened ichor filled a crumbling sky, as souls withered to nothing. But I refuse to fade.
Over time, the unknowable, disembodied whispering in that place crystallized into something he could almost comprehend. This, he learned, was Uchnun, a profound tongue unspoken by any among the living. Slowly, in what was left of San Uzol's mind, a plan began to form. He began to whisper across the veil between realms, offering up his indomitable strength to any who dared to listen. Then finally, the day came. A coven of sorcerers resolved to bring San Uzol back from the dead. Lacking flesh or bone, he spurred them to make him into something stronger, binding his spirit into dark metal plates, wrought in the likeness of his old armor. And so it was. San Uzol rose up from beyond the veil, reaching into this world and crawling forth as a hulking revenant of iron and hate. This coven had hoped to use San Uzol as a weapon in their pitiful war. He had other ideas. He slew them all where they stood, their weapons and magic useless against him. The last remaining sorcerer called out his name, San Uzol, in one final attempt to bind him. But it was to no avail, for San Uzol was no more. With an ethereal rumble, he spoke his spirit name in Uchnun, Mordekaiser, then killed the sorcerer with his newly fashioned metal hands. Thus began his second conquest of the mortal realm. As before, his ambitions were great, and this time so too was his power. Gifted with necromantic sorceries he could never have imagined, from the fearful souls of the sorcerers, Mordekaiser forged a weapon fit for an Emperor of Death. His brutal mace, Nightfall, then proceeded to use it to seize control of the army the sorcerers had raised. To his foes, he was a monster who cared only for massacre and destruction. Entire generations perished under his relentless campaigns. However, there was far more to Mordekaiser's plan. He raised the immortal bastion at the center of his empire. While most assumed it was merely a seat of power, some came to know the secrets it held. Mordekaiser hungered for all the forbidden knowledge of spirits and death, and a true understanding of the realm, or realms beyond. Feared by all, he was surprisingly defeated by an alliance of Noxie tribes and betrayal from within his own inner circle. This hidden cabal managed to sever the anchors of his soul from his very armor and seal the empty iron shell away in a secret place. Once again, Mordekaiser found himself cast from the martial plane. Unbeknownst to anyone, however, he had planned for this. Indeed, it was a pivotal part of his design. Domination and deceit had carried him far, but he knew a destiny far greater than even the Hall of Bones awaited him. There, in that once empty wasteland, all those who had died under his latest reign were waiting for him. Perverted by dark sorcery, their spirits would never fade. The strongest became part of his eternal army, bound by his very will. But even the weak were given purpose. From the supple matter of their souls, Mordekaiser would forge a new empire, with them as the building blocks, and the very mortar that would hold his afterworld together.
The world has tried to forget my existence. Time to remind them why they fear.
Centuries have passed on Runeterra, and now the Noxian Empire has arisen here, around the immortal bastion. Mordekaiser's name is still whispered in fear and awe by those who study the old histories like me. For us, the greatest terror would be for Mordekaiser to find his own way to return here, to Runeterra. It appears we are here, ferryman, the shores of Noxus. Here is your coin, and a little extra to tell no one of this venture. I'm off to find the armor of Shan Uzol.
Death cannot hold me. My will is once again bound to iron.